When a monkey manages to dominate the monkey next to it, a happy chemical is released, serotonin. When a monkey fails to dominate the monkey next to it, it loses the banana, it loses the mating opportunity, and a stress chemical is released. And I thought, wow, this seems really important. How come nobody told me this in all these years of reading psychology? And although it's not what we would like to be, it's the reality of our brains. And so I think we can't manage it until we understand it. And so I took early retirement and started focusing on that.
This is the Mindful Hustle, where reality creation isn't just wishful thinking. It's a strategic realignment with the version of you that already has what you want. I'm Donnie, and I help high-level creators shift their identity so success becomes inevitable. Did you know that research shows that the average person has 60,000 to 70,000 thoughts per day, and 90% of those thoughts are similar or even the same as the day before? So if you want a different outcome, you've got to become a different thinker. Our Reality Realization Institute, we bridge neuroscience and spiritual law to help you rewire those patterns for real. You can start with a free strategy session at realityrealization.org/call. Now, let's hop into today's podcast. Today's guest is Loretta, founder of the Inner Mammal Institute, and author of the best-selling book, Habits of a Happy Brain. Retrain your brain to boost your serotonin, dopamine, oxytocin, and endorphin levels. Loretta has helped many individuals understand the science behind our emotions and habits by breaking down the brain's reward chemicals in a way that's both practical and empowering. In this episode, we'll explore how to work with your inner mammal, rewire your patterns, and create lasting happiness from the inside out. Let's dive in. And thank you, Loretta, for being on today's show.
Sure. Thanks for having me.
Wonderful. All right, let's start here. Was there a moment in your life or career when something just clicked and everything changed? Perhaps a mindset shift or a realization that really reshaped your path?
Yeah. So when I started reading about monkey brains, because I was looking to psychology to help me with problems in my life. And I had studied psychology my whole life, and I thought it would have all the answers. Problems still happen. So then I read that monkeys are very competitive, and their brain chemistry responds constantly to their competitive position. So when a monkey manages to dominate the monkey next to it, a happy chemical is released, serotonin. When a monkey fails to dominate the monkey next to it, it loses the banana, it loses the mating opportunity, and a stress chemical is released. And I thought, wow, this seems really important. How come nobody told me this in all these years of reading psychology? And although it's not what we would like to be, it's the reality of our brains. And so I think we can't manage it until we understand it. And so I took early retirement and started focusing on that.
During that journey, once you started focusing on that, what were some of the things you learned?
Well, a lot of people talk about chimpanzees, but then I went from chimpanzees to monkeys to other animals, lions, gazelles, and I learned that all mammals have the same basic pattern. And one of the basic patterns is that they're competitive. Now, the other thing you always hear about is that animals like a group and they stick to the group and they're herd animals. But this is not at all the way it works in nature. So in nature, they only stick with the group when they smell a predator. And so then I could see that this is how humans work, that when people feel a common threat or they have a common enemy, they stick together. Otherwise, they go their own way. And there's nothing wrong with that because in the animal world, if you follow the other animals too much, you end up eating food that has been soiled by other animals. So there's a natural urge to go your own way, and you have less competition over resources when you go your own way, but you also have less protection. So we always have this sort of complicated weighing, and this is the job our brain is designed to do. So again, it's just the natural way.
And how does that play out in terms of a human's experience? What are some examples of that?
Sure. Well, the common example would be if a company has a threat like a competitor, and then you think, oh, we might go out of business unless we really work hard, work together, and then happy ending, the company succeeds and everybody gets a big bonus. So that's, theoretically how we would like it to work. But everyone knows that, then you have another company where everybody's backstabbing and you can't wait to get away from them and you'd rather start your own company. Then when you start your own company, there's no way you want those backstabbers in your company, So that's a really tough decision of like, when do you trust others because you get more done when you collaborate? And when do you get more done when you don't collaborate? And there's no one right answer. Each person has to make that decision sort of each day
Yeah,
from the facts.
yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. From what you've been sharing so far, I'm curious to know, would you say that the work you do, is it focused primarily on productivity or is it focused on emotional well-being or performance? Where would you say that area of focus kind of lies in?
My focus now is on emotional well-being,
Okay.
but I have to say, honestly, I don't make any money from this. So I was a college professor for 25 years, and I took early retirement in order to do this. People who sell you a message, they make big promises.
Hmm.
And we've all heard all the promises, right? But when I had the freedom to look into the facts, I saw that there are no fast, easy answers. That's why all humans have emotional struggles.
Hmm.
And I thought we're better off knowing the facts. And if people want the facts, fine. If they don't, fine. So I just wanted to stick to the facts.
So in terms of emotional well-being, excuse me. In terms of emotional well-being, what would you say are some of the things people should know about the progression or the, I guess, self-development towards becoming a more, I guess, whole person, someone who can handle emotional stressors or recover quicker, or just be in a place where they feel good within their own body and able to kind of experience life in the way that feels best to them?
Sure. So I've written 8 books on this, so I'm
Oh,
just going to make it short as I can. But so the first thing is that our happy brain chemicals are not designed to be on all the time.
mhm.
So if you expect yourself to be happy and, what's that movie called Super Pumped? Like
Yeah.
other people pretend that they're super pumped all the time and you should be that way. That's not realistic. Anyone who's acting that way is paying a price, Maybe you're emptying your tank today and your tank is going to be empty tomorrow. So it's not realistic to expect that. Our brain is designed to do that. A simple way to understand it is if you think about a lion is watching gazelles and deciding like when is it going to go for it. If the lion just runs after anything, it's going to starve to death. It has to make a good choice about what to target. And that's when our dopamine is released, when you have a good opportunity. So if you just felt super pumped all the time, you would waste your energy on bad opportunities. So it's designed to alert you when you see a good opportunity. That's the first thing I would say. The second thing, all mammals make social comparisons. In the animal world, your food and mating opportunity and the survival of your genes depends on your social status. And I'm not saying we should care about social status. It's sort of the opposite. We're going to obsess over it and waste too much energy over it unless we understand that our animal brain is producing this, even if we say with our verbal brain that we don't care about it. And so we compare ourselves to others and we think they have some kind of perfect life and we're missing out. But if you know the details of other people's lives, then you see that nobody's life is perfect because every brain has to make these sort of terrible trade-offs. You can't have it both ways. So you can relax today and get nothing done, or you could get something done and not relax. So the bottom line, I guess, is I would call it self-acceptance. When we can focus on the long run, then we could avoid some of the harmful temptations because we know that that hurts us in the long run. But on the other hand, if you only focus on the long run, then you can deprive yourself of any positive chemistry, and then that leaves you more prey to bad habits. So we need to have some mix of long run goals and short run goals.
I see, I see. And when someone's trying to determine what type of goal fits these categories, are there any kind of like guidelines you'd use or like markers that can help them determine what would be a good goal to focus on for the short term and the long term to kind of have that nice equilibrium?
So, in a more abstract scientific way, let me say that I focus on the happy brain chemicals, and we have these four: dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, and endorphin. And each of them is a different good feeling, and we want all of them.
Mhm.
So, I explain in my work how to get the different ones and what is the different job that each of them does. So, dopamine is the feeling of excitement when you see a new opportunity and when you see yourself going closer to it.
Mhm.
But chasing dopamine is not the most realistic thing because once you get the thing you're going after, the dopamine stops. And that's why people are so often tempted to go for more, more, more in a way that hurts themselves.
Mhm.
So we have to be very conscious of the fact that this feeling of, I want something bigger and better and new and improved, this is like a natural impulse because in the state of nature, our ancestors never knew where their next meal was coming from, and they were always looking for food. When they found food, then it ran out, and they had to find more food. So we've inherited a brain that is always seeking and always worried about running out and finding more. So when we find more, we feel great. But if you think you have to have that great feeling every minute, then maybe you order another pizza or another six pack or more online shopping or whatever is the thing? So it's to find small ways of sparking your dopamine and build that into your day in healthy ways. And small ways that are healthy, it's very individual. If a person who likes to play the guitar should save time to play the guitar and work on a new song. Person who likes to eat cookies, well, you can't eat cookies all the time, but you could search for new cookie recipes and, every week bake a new kind of cookie and put them in the freezer and only have one a day and give the rest to your friends or something. So there's ways that you could bring excitement into your life without doing too much harm. I personally have started watching mysteries in foreign languages. The mystery is a dopamine thing, the prediction element, and the foreign language keeps my mind so busy that I can't worry about work,
Yeah.
is to put it simply. So that's dopamine. Now, oxytocin is the chemical that we hear about is like togetherness or belonging or cooperation. And everybody thinks that this is something we should have all the time and that animals have it easily. But as I explain, it's much more complicated. The reality is that an animal runs to the group when it smells a predator. And humans look to a group when they feel threatened. You want the group to protect you. But everybody else in the group is there to get protection for themselves. So you've probably been in a group where everybody's really in it for themselves. And then you get frustrated. And it's very valuable to know that this is how the mammal brain works so that you don't get too upset about it. So when I was young, I would sort of look for the perfect group and then I wouldn't find it. Then I would think maybe what's wrong with me and look and look. And and now I just sort of laugh about it. Probably going to join a new group every few years and then get tired of it and try a new group. But at least I don't get too upset about it. You know what I'm saying? I just say, oh, yeah, everybody's a mammal. And whatever group meets my needs in this moment is good enough because
Yeah.
people will always be mammals. Um, but oxytocin, we need a little bit every day. Um, if you have a partner, that helps, but you can't then just expect to get everything from that partner and then resent them if you don't get it. But trying to get it from strangers, then you're going to end up disappointed and bitter. So, like all these things, we have to sort of weigh, find healthy ways to get it because we all know the famous story of the person who goes to the pub every day and has to drink all the time in order to keep their drinking friends. And it's a chicken and egg. They blame the friends for their drinking and then they drink to, it's like the friends are the excuse to drink, but they also gives you the friendship.
Yeah.
And there are also people who exercise to excess and damage their bodies, but they do that to have their sports friends. So everyone struggles with this. So finally, serotonin is the chemical that is triggered when a mammal feels like it's in the position of strength. And this is, of course, sounds like nasty and mean. And people think, I don't do that, only other people do that. So I use like a simple example. If you're playing cards and you need a certain card, and then you draw that card and you're really excited that you feel like you're going to win. So that natural urge to win, that's serotonin. Okay. So again, if you think you're going to win every day, every minute of every day, you're not going to have that feeling all the time, and nobody does. And if you do, that's like a gambling addict. Once they win, then that wires their brain to keep thinking, oh, I have to do more, I have to do more. So again, we've inherited a brain that is difficult to manage. And we have to acknowledge that we want that feeling of being in the position of strength. Some people you might know, like they always get it by putting other people down. And then you don't want to be near that person. And so that person has a harder time meeting their other needs. So it's a challenge to put yourself in the position of strength, but not be a jerk.
Yeah. Wow. That's really insightful. Thank you for sharing. And definitely get the sense of the depth of research you've gone into this, and it's very appreciated to have this type of insight in the world. Something I'm curious about is in your research, have you uncovered any, I guess, insights that you felt should be more known? You felt as if this was something that could be a shift in someone's like perception on themselves or how they go about experiencing their life that just isn't really discussed that much in the current media.
Well, my opinion is that everything I've said so far is not discussed in the current media.
Hmm.
What I have said is not accepted in academic psychology, and it's not, I don't hear it in the media. I don't know about you,
Mm.
but I did not learn this from the media, or from academic psychology. Explain where I learned it is simply from monkey studies that were done in the late 20th century. And those studies have disappeared for a few reasons. One of them is because it's not politically correct to say that animals are competitive. We're supposed to say that animals are cooperative and altruistic and they share their food. And then all of this other stuff is just ignored, has been ignored since the internet was invented. So you hardly find it on the internet. But that's why I have collected all of the books that these studies are published in. They were done by major medical schools and research labs. The other reason this research is ignored, monkey studies were attacked by animal rights activists. The researchers were personally attacked with bombs, and their homes and families were attacked. Universities protected themselves by agreeing, not only they stopped doing monkey research, they withdrew the findings done with the research, and that makes the information not available. And then they don't even want to admit that they did that because, when you negotiate with terrorists, you don't admit it.
Yeah.
So that is unfortunate to me.
Wow. So in your research, it's basically going through the previous researchers that have been sort of hidden in a way and uncovering the truths and the insights from them and bringing them back out to light in a sense.
Yes, yes.
Got you.
And what to me, I mean, to me, this all seems so obvious. I mean, when I explain it to you, it seems obvious, but I would guess like you never heard this before. And people think, oh, gee, I should take a psychology course. And I say, no, they don't cover this. Take a biology course. No, they don't cover this.
Wow.
Yeah, it was covered 50 years ago. And I have to say, one of the major figures in this field, they literally threw a pitcher of ice water at him at a conference when he spoke about this because it violates this warm and fuzzy view of nature.
That's hardcore.
And
Wow.
that was at Harvard.
Yeah, yeah. Very wild. Certain perspectives people have and the differing opinions on the best way to go about doing any form of research to uncover the truth about reality. It's very interesting. So, in that sense, with a lot of your findings being the uncovering of that which has been hidden, have there been any things in your findings as of recently, as I assume you're still kind of diving deep into this, uncovering new things every day? Has there been anything recently that has been kind of like a new insight that you've gained from your research that you find?
Yeah. Yeah, recently I went to a goat farm in Texas,
Mhm.
and that's where I learned that goats do not like to eat grass that has been peed and pooped on by other goats. That makes sense, right? They literally, if they do, they get intestinal worms and they die. So
Wow.
they're very picky about which what they eat, and that's why their natural urge is to space out, to
Mhm.
space themselves. And also, like if you drive past a herd of cows, you see that the cows are always spacing themselves. So animals and people, they want their space. They
Yeah.
don't want to have these groups forced on them. And yet that's what academic psychology and the media is now teaching. So the interesting example and the proof sort of is when you hear a cow moo and a sheep and goats make noise, they're calling out to the other ones in their herd to see how far away they are because they don't want to get too spread out
Mhm.
because the predator will kill the one that's the furthest distance from the group. So
Mhm.
they're constantly tracking where's the group. Because if you're too busy focusing on the food, the group might take a few steps and move on, and then you're the one that's isolated.
Yeah.
So if you think about teenagers, teenagers are always worried about getting isolated from the group. So that's the natural impulse we have. And you could say even in business that you're always monitoring what is the group doing. So you want to go your own way, but you also want to monitor the group.
Yeah, I can see that definitely in business in the sense of like following trends, trying to keep in the know with like the next latest advancement, kind of following like the herd of what everyone's doing to find the opportunity in a way. And then you have
Yep.
the few outliers who go in the completely different direction. And that's where the new group starts heading towards. And it's very interesting. Yeah. Something I'm curious about is you mentioned that you had retired from your previous work to start doing this research. Is there a particular mission you're focused on, something that you want to give to the world by doing this work that is really the focus of everything you're doing?
Thank you. Well, What motivated me, I think, first I had thousands of students who were not very motivated, and I was trying to understand, like we encourage everybody to go to college, and then professors give them good grades whether they do the work or not. I think it's a terrible waste of resources, and this is trickled down all the schools now. They give you good grades whether you do the work or not. It sort of bothers me, and then it bothers me even more that young people are being trained to view themselves as having a disorder. Like
Mhm.
half of young people think they have this disorder or this disorder. I think it's terrible. So, yeah, so I would hope if I could help another generation to not be indoctrinated into this unhealthy mindset.
Well, this has been such a powerful conversation. Thank you for sharing so openly about your research and these hidden things that are now being brought to light, the truth of how the mammal works in a sense. Very interesting to hear these perspectives and to hear some of the understandings behind how different human beings and just creatures themselves operate. So, something I like to do at the end of these episodes is to ask, if you had to give one insight to those out there trying to reach a new level of life while being fulfilled, while being really a whole person as they do so, what would you tell those out there?
Sure. So each brain is wired by its own past experience. So if you compare yourself to other people, you're just going to drive yourself crazy. So our wiring is built when we're young, and it's really hard to change. So if you want to change one or two or three things, it takes a lot of work, but you could do it. But you're not going to change everything. So that's the whole sort of cliche about playing to your strengths. So in my case, for example, I really hate to sell. So I've done all this work, but like for me to sell it, I just hate it. And I grew up in a place where it was not safe for me to try to pressure other people to do things. Whereas, like, I have this 4-year-old grandson, and he loves pressuring me to do things. As soon as he gets me to, you could say it's manipulative. As soon as he gets me to do one thing, then he starts trying to talk me into doing something else. So he's might be better at sales, maybe, and I'm just not good at sales. So I'm going to accept that about myself. And, I really empathize with a person in business who has to wear so many hats and fill so many roles. It's really hard. I should say that when I grew up, my father had a small business. I call it an Italian business because he worked for his father and his older brother. So Italians are always in business with the fathers and the sons, and they usually don't get along. And I wonder how really I would have trouble getting along if I were in business with relatives or, you know. So, and also the business did not do very well. So I grew up sort of watching my father just sort of not have much to do, sitting around in a small shop waiting for customers to come in. And it was really tragic. So they had a lot of Italian customers who had the custom of bargaining over the price. So they would rip a ad out of a newspaper for a product at Walmart, and then they would go and demand the Walmart price from my father in this tiny shop. So, he was just not making any money at all. It was really sad. And so then I went to college, and I was indoctrinated with this mindset that business was bad. But on some level, I knew as if business people just have money handed to them and sit on their butts all day. But I knew that wasn't true. Yeah, but it's really hard to be in business. I mean, there are such unlimited regulations, and it's so hard to figure out the regulation, to pay for lawyers. I really sympathize with anybody in business.
Yeah, a very interesting experience to go into the business world. And that's part of the reason why I created this podcast was to be able to provide voices of wisdom in different fields, targeting kind of the mindset and the perspective necessary to kind of handle the challenges and stay kind of level-headed through the turmoil that business can be sometimes. Because I've had experiences with business, working with my mom, working for myself, and just going through all the different levels of ups and downs. And so
Mm.
like hearing things about like what you shared today, understanding like the group dynamics, how to work with others in that sense, it's like very invaluable experiences and perspectives that can allow you to succeed in these types of endeavors. So very much appreciative of people like you who do this work and this research to help those out there who really need it.
Great. Thank you. Thanks for having this podcast and for the great questions.
Of course. And before we wrap, where can listeners connect with you and learn more about what you're doing right now?
So since you didn't say my last name at the beginning, so it's Loretta Breuning, Breuning, and my website is innermammalinstitute.org, innermammalinstitute.org. I have lots of free resources, videos, podcasts, a lot of books, and I have a free 5-day happy chemical jumpstart. If you put your email at the bottom of the page, you'll get one email a day for 5 days explaining 5 different chemicals that motivate us.
Perfect. Well, thank you once again, Loretta, for hopping on the podcast today and sharing your insights. And thank you to all of our listeners. Have a wonderful rest of your experience and keep realizing your reality. All right. Have a nice one.
Bye.